Thanks everybody for joining us here at Boys of Summer Shortstop. We just finished the screening and now we're going to go ahead and take questions and comments. There are a few very familiar friends and faces up here. If you'd like to start any of my familiar folks, either Karen, Susan, or Carl or Angela, please by all means unmute yourself and let me know either your question or comment about the film. We'd love to hear from you. Please go ahead. I see Karen.
Just so grateful your dad kept saying yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, does that you as a person with Parkinson's, Karen, is it hard to say yes? What does that mean?
you have to pull in all the factors. Okay, to say yes, that's something a month from now. You can't count on how you're going to feel, what your symptoms are going to be like that day. But you just have to have faith that the experience will be worth it and roll with whatever. And that's where the improv, practicing improv, it does. It teaches you to work with whatever hand you're dealt at the time.
So it sounds like what you're saying. You practice saying yes within the games, the play of
Exactly.
improv.
Exactly. And it gives you more confidence that when that day comes, you're gonna have a good time no matter what.
You're going to find a way to say yes even through the difficulty, which we're going to have.
Exactly.
Thanks, Karen. I really appreciate that. Good. Who else? A question or comment? And I see Dean popping up. Nice to see you as well, Dean. Does anyone have a question or comment they'd like to share about anything with the film? I see Carl. Carl, unmute yourself, my friend, and let me hear from you, please.
I enjoyed the movie very much, very much, Robert. I had a question about your. I left my dad a few years ago. A few years ago, and I would love to do something like this with my dad. I can see tension. Spending that much time close to my dad, it's much to be agreed. I can see us disagreeing about things on the road. Did you and your dad have any disagreements?
So you're asking if my dad and I had disagreements that you don't see on the screen. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
So it's interesting, back to the first film, we actually got a critic, the very first film, who said, I love the movie. The problem is you guys get along too well. From a dramatic arc standpoint, those of you who watch these types of things, the classic storytelling requires some kind of conflict. And especially then, my dad was early onset. So some people even questioned if he had Parkinson's. And for those of you who are in that space, you know how difficult and painful that is to have that questioned. So no, I mean, we barely had a crossword with each other in, 20,000 miles in 2 months. That's just kind of how we both are. However, what I'd say the tension is now is very much that my dad being 25 years into his diagnosis, it's we're both very angry at the disease, put it that way, and from different angles, and it feels unfair and it feels hurtful. And what happens in the fourth film, which you'll see is there actually was the first meltdown that we had with each other. Susan was actually there for it on a night where we had a tremendously stressful event getting to a baseball game that we were doing, and a flight gone wrong, and just the flight from hell, as we called it. And the next day at this big time event that I was putting on for the Parkinson's community, dad had one idea, I had another. They were conflicting with each other, and we got after it. And I'd never heard my dad talk to me the way he did that night. Susan and my daughter saw that too. My dad really lost it. And that's really the only time I can think of where we've really just gone after it like that. We've had normal father-son, human relation things, but it was ugly for about 15 minutes. And that part is not on camera, but it's talked about because it was Parkinson's related in terms of exhaustion, exposure, opportunity, and all these things. So, what I'll say is this: when it comes to telling stories that are difficult or painful but need to still be told, it's really a great technique to use aesthetic distance to tell it about someone who's not you, but is like you and another person whom you're conflicting with. That gives you the freedom to tell the human part of the story without giving up the personal details that might be either embarrassing or even unfair to share for whatever reason. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's really really great. That yeah, it's so many positive moments as opposed to Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's where when we think about storytelling, we talk about the creative effects. And for those who are interested, that's one of the things we teach is cinema therapy and creative storytelling. And yeah, thanks again for that, Carl. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Susan, I see you.
I have lots of that I could say about cinema therapy, but I'd like to actually jump back into the film, and I really hope I can remember. I've seen this film lots of times, and I hear something different each time. And this time, the one that is your dad said about the not using the walker. He said I was giving myself a chance to hurt myself, or something close to that. And that was so stunning to own that and to be honest about that. And it circled around and made me think how true that can be in life. That if you don't take that chance or do that hard thing that you think is the hard thing, you're going to have a harder thing to deal with.
That's right. It's very understandable in the face of something painful and even unfair. And let's not cut corners. Parkinson's is unfair. It absolutely is. And there's a lot of reasons to perhaps even become a martyr or angry or disappointed or isolated, all those things. And that can cloud judgment and, the realities of all the other things. You can justify things like not wanting to use something that you really need to use, a mobility device, right? To say, well, but I got screwed, so I don't want to do this. And it's like, well, I hear you, and what happens if you don't? I mean, the this is where it's so important to continue to have something to look forward to. That if you don't have something that makes life feel worth living and you're only focused on the pain and the frustration and the loss, then that's a quick spiral potentially down to why am I even here? And you heard Dad say in this film, if I can't have my independence, I don't know if it's worth living. And that is that's a very human thing. That's not just a Parkinson's thing. I see Ted. Thank you, Susan. Ted, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yes, enjoyed the film tremendously, and thank you for bringing that. It was actually going to be my question about that comment your father had early in the film about the independence, and if he can't have that, you wondered, is life really worth living? And it was scary to hear that. I like to think that when I get to the point that I need others' help, that I'll willingly accept that. And without scooping the next film, are you able to comment? Has your dad had a change in thinking around that statement that he made?
It's a great question, and I can, yeah, very fairly say that perspective drives a lot, right? The things you thought you could never or were impossible over time and based on certain circumstances open up and unfold in ways that, for the most part, we never imagine. Life is bigger, more amazing, sometimes more painful, and often more awesome than we think it ever could be. So my dad is very day by day, and again, I'm not going to at all again soft pedal the fact that it's very painful. He's wheelchair bound at this time, and he hates it to the point where, because of his impulse control disorder, which is exacerbated with Parkinson's for many people, he keeps trying to walk, and we've even had to put a seatbelt on his wheelchair, and it angers him to no end. At the same time, you know what? You put a game of Rummy Cube in front of him, or you put a Warriors game on when they're playing better than they are right now, or something fun, a good meal, right? And he's Dan Cochran, the happy guy. So life is different than he thought it was going to be. It's different than I thought it was going to be, and yet there is still joy. I'll bring my dog over, who's whimpering at the door right now. And that'll give him some real joy to be able to pet Stella and see herself. So you don't know until you're there how you're going to feel or what the effect's going to be. Stella, did you hear your name? Hi. Stella wants to say hi. There she is. Okay. So Ted, does that answer your question? Excellent. Thank you very much. Good. I see Dean. Yes, Dean. Did you want to share something as I let my dog out? Please go ahead.
Yeah, you go right ahead. Well, and all I wanted to say, Robert, is first of all, great to see you again. It's now I get what all the hubbub's about, right? This is the first time I finally got to watch one of the movies, and I actually had my wife and my son here with me. And there are two things that just really came to mind for me. Obviously, very inspiring for people with Parkinson's. That goes without saying, right? But I think the even more important piece of this for me and for my family was the honest way that you address kind of the relationships that you still maintain and grow while you have Parkinson's. And my family kept making comments about, I never really thought about it like that, or that it was kind of a different way of approaching it. And it just helps people kind of figure out how to communicate better, how to be honest. So you're not, there's all these taboo things you're afraid to talk about or do, that you're just very honest with people and how you deal with it. And it just makes the relationship so much tighter, so much more honest, so much easier. Right. So, thank you for that. And it was a pleasure. I can't wait to till May. I can't wait to see the new one. So,
Wonderful. Thank you. What a lovely comment. And yes, the fourth film is going to be out at the World Parkinson Congress in May. And for those of you who aren't going to the World Parkinson Congress, stay tuned. Come, to our website, become a sustaining member. We're kicking off our campaign drive here in April for Parkinson's Awareness Month. And if you want to take the road to third base and become a sustaining member with our nonprofit, which is the fiscal sponsor, we appreciate that. We will have a Father's Day screening online, just like we did here, of the new film. So if you can't make it to Phoenix for the World Parkinson Congress, don't worry. We will do that. And we'll also be taking that film on tour at that point too. So support groups and hospitals and clinics and places that have had screenings of Shortstop, which we're still doing this spring, we will turn our attention toward the opportunity of third base. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much for that. And Dean, your comment about what your family said, I never thought of it like that. That means the world to me. That again, it shocked me when we screened the second film and you heard the one caretaker, Colleen from the Parkinson Foundation, call me a care partner, and you didn't see the cutaway then, but I'd never thought of myself as a caregiver. And I was like, oh, that's me, huh? Oh, is that what we're doing? Am I helping people? I didn't think of it. I thought I was just telling a story. And so I appreciate having that validated again, in many ways, Dean. That means a lot to me. Thank you. I see Venetia and Keegan here as well. I just wanted to recognize you both. Thank you. If either of you have a comment or a question, you're welcome to jump in. Just raise your hand. I see Susan's already got her mic off, so she's chomping at the bit. Oh, let me get Venetia here because she's. Go ahead, dear.
Just want to say that I really appreciate you showing this. And you brought up the isolation thing. That's huge. And it's really easy to isolate. It's hard to keep saying yes to things and getting out there.
Mhm.
But you got to do it. And so much easier when you do make yourself do things.
Venetia, do you mind me asking you a question because you are currently writing a story about your Parkinson's experience through a very creative, interesting way. Do you mind me asking you about that in this forum?
I don't mind.
So you've got a character, you describe your Parkinson's as a viperfish, and it lives in the brain of Heather Rose, your main character. It's this very creative approach of a woman who hasn't come forward with her Parkinson's, but she is now going to go to her high school reunion. Is it her 40th? Is what, 50th?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Okay, so she's going to her 50th high school reunion, and she's going to own that she has Parkinson's in this public event after really keeping it private. And she is, a decorated athlete. That's what people knew her as, a volleyball player. She has, this life in many ways that is now suddenly very different. Can you talk about that vulnerability of putting this character forward and what the experience is like for you to share? Because it's not you, but Heather Rose carries pieces that you empathize with. What's that like to share that story?
It's tricky. It's really trippy too. It's a good thing. I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy putting it out there. I've had several people read it and they've enjoyed reading it, and even my daughter, so she understands better what I'm going through now. It's
That's
pretty
a great,
cool.
that's a huge note you just said, because the familial part, the misunderstandings, I think so many people falsely assume that within a family, just because the person with Parkinson's has it, that the kids, the parents, the, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, they're like, oh yeah, we get it. So often, unfortunately, it's the opposite of that. Not only do they not get it, some don't want to accept it, some actively fight the diagnosis, others ignore it. So you're doing this, and in part, you're going to be able to creatively then share with your daughter some of the emotional aspect. That's spectacular. You're just so you know, I'm glad you're doing it for her, but just know you're doing it for the community at large.
Great.
Thank you. Venetia is what we're calling, by the way, one of our success stories. These are people that are writing their creative stories to further proliferate the understanding of Parkinson's, not just to the Parkinson's community. So important that it reaches beyond our relative echo chamber into the billions of people who don't. Because while we estimate now, just speaking to Larry Gifford, our friend today, 12 million people in the world with Parkinson's, and say give them each 5 people apiece, that's 60 million. That leaves 7,940,000,000 people who don't understand Parkinson's. And those are the people that we need to get to understand Parkinson's so we can get the resources, the funding, and the research we need to end Parkinson's, which is absolutely our goal. And with the right amount of engagement, we can do it. We really can. So thank you, Venetia, for being one of our success stories.
Thank you for leading me there.
Yeah. And Susan, yes, please.
Gosh, it was what I'm experiencing is having Parkinson's and not being able to remember what I wanted to say a couple of minutes ago. As a whole, this film is about doing what you just said, Robert, and it's about, as Venetia said, you got to say yes and you got to go out and do it. And gosh, something Ted that she said, Ted, and it's gone now. I think what I wanted to say was, people need to see this and what's coming and read success stories and talk to each other and ask and learn and amplify.
Yes to all of that, Susan. The thing that a lot of people don't understand, especially in that 7 billion plus category, and even many within the 60 million category, is the effect of the psychosocial emotional side of Parkinson's. People falsely equate it with a tremor or stiffness or a soft voice, as if those were the only things involved with Parkinson's, as if the psychosocial emotional weren't as much, if not more. And these conversations told through stories which engage us neurologically, we're hardwired to know, understand, and engage with stories. That's our way in, not just through flat stories of flat information, but through ups and downs and ins and outs, excitement and stakes. So yes, these are true healing opportunities stories can do for us. So thank you very much for that, Susan. And Karen.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And one of the things that I heard other people say is, the reaction of the family. I never thought of it that way. And we're all different. One person with Parkinson's is one person with Parkinson's. And that's why all of our stories matter. And we don't know who's going to hear our story and go, oh, that might be me. Or, oh, I never thought of it that way. And the emotions are such a big part. such a big part. So, and just like you said, Robert, it's so much bigger and more complicated to explain than the obvious. And that's where, yeah, you've following your dad around for all these years to this last one that we, a lot of us got to be a part of. It's just such an awesome example of every aspect, and how no matter what aspect you got, even when you got a meltdown, there's a way to work through it. And it's the community that helps. You can't do it alone.
Thank you so much, Karen. It is exactly the community. That's who we are. That's what we are. For those who don't know, yesandexercise.org is the nonprofit that runs both the improvisation and storytelling programs. We hope you'll check them out. Check that site out so you can engage too in those programs, because they're open to everyone, and we do them online, so it doesn't matter where you are. I want to give a chance to anyone who hasn't asked yet. I know I see Yvonne and I see Keegan. If either of you, others, Yvonne, she'd like to go ahead and ask or make a comment, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just want to say I know a lot of you from other calls with Robert, because you're so welcoming of me. I'm the one that has HD, the Huntington's
haircut, by the way.
Yes, so thank you. I know you remember that. So thank you for letting me be on the call. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about Parkinson's, because it helps me. I'm about mid-stage in my journey, and what you're doing, I wish would be also for HD, that kind of movement, because it's wonderful. And the film was outstanding, and just thank you for letting me be on the call.
Yvonne, you're always welcome, and I want to make sure this is clear that it's part of our mission statement that everyone is welcome, that Parkinson's or an affiliation to Parkinson's is not a prerequisite to coming to play improv with us or joining one of our cinema therapy classes. Everybody is welcome. We happen to have that particular focus because of my dad, that he's the reason for the season. However, we know that these classes, improvisation and storytelling, are human-based classes, that emotions are not only things that get dealt with within Parkinson's, they are human things that are muted even without any sort of diagnosis. We all have emotional imbalances or blocks or things we're unaware of, and these are modalities that everyone can use. So Yvonne, anytime.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
And Keegan, did you want to either ask a question or make a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I watched both of the previous documentaries in preparation to be able to come tonight. I'm also trying to learn as much as I can about Parkinson's. My grandma had it, but she only had it for about 2 years and ended up passing away from COVID. So I didn't get to see a lot of it firsthand. But I am trying to actually apply to PhD programs right now to do research into neurodegenerative diseases. My other grandpa on my other side had Alzheimer's for a couple of years too, so I kind of got stuff on both sides of the family. So I'm trying to be able to do a lot of research and stuff, and being able to see you guys' story, and then hear all of you guys who are on the call as well. Your takes and all that kind of stuff is important and really nice to hear. So I just want to say thanks.
Well, thank you, Keegan, and please stay in touch, especially as you journey towards the PhD. The fourth film, as a matter of fact, deals with that very explicitly, the PhD process, and what I learned not only in the classroom, but also in the power structure of the PhD and the university and hospitals, similar to what many people with Parkinson's experience in the medical institutions. And it was very interesting. And I'm very glad to have graduated. And it was very close to not happening. So please stay in touch. And if I can be of any help, I'm happy to offer that. So thank you very much, Keegan.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Let's go Venetia and then Susan.
I just want to say to Keegan, thank you very much for your research and joining in with the rest of us on this very important study that you're doing.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Wonderful. Thank you. Susan.
Uh, to Yvonne and also to Keegan, Yvonne,
Oh.
we frequently have people who don't have Parkinson's but do have another named
Oh,
disease, as years with the Huntington's, that
okay.
say this, this works for me. This applies to me too, and that's been uh, wonderful to be able to be seen and help other people who don't have Parkinson's who are
Yeah. I think
dealing with
Susan,
something.
let me know, do you think that it kind of rehumanizes the dehumanization of Parkinson's sometimes to have
Yeah.
others come in and feel similarly, healed, refreshed, whatever it is that we feel? Is that fair to say?
I never thought of it in that term, but yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Susan and Robert and Keegan too for your research, but those comments, because I'm telling you, it's life changing being on these calls. And and the fact that, you remembered me
Oh my
made me
God.
feel so important. Because
You
I
were part of the
remember a
welcome
lot of
wagon when
you.
I was a newbie.
That's right.
That's what I remember.
Well,
That's
this is
great.
community at work, Yvonne. And
Yes.
Okay.
yeah. So Karen, thank you for the shout out in that regard. Susan, I saw your hand again. We're
Yeah.
gonna wrap things up here. So
Okay.
please, yes,
Yeah.
Carl.
This in my cinema therapy work that I'm doing, I'm actually targeting a younger group in my writing, young adult level people, but my main character does have Parkinson's and has different ways that she does and doesn't deal with that. And it's a delightful, easy read, but it's intended to help raise the awareness of a group, as you experience, Keegan, with your two grandfathers. I mean, you weren't 14, I guess you're a little bit older than that, but so we're going after it.
The multi-generational thing, I think, is very important, Susan, and thank you for bringing that up. And many people who see this talk about Giuseppe stealing the show, which my dad and I are so excited. Absolutely. Francesca has many more moments in the upcoming film. But that, like you say, that legacy, that cross-generational type of relationship building is very important. We need to not isolate and try to say, oh, that's just the old person's disease, and leave them in a corner. We're trying to, of course, remove that. So thank you. Carl, I saw your hand.
Robert, this is you've done for these documentaries, and you've seen the transition with your father. What have you learned? What have you learned over the four documentaries about your father that you didn't know from the start?
Well, when we did the first documentary, I didn't know hardly anything. That was an exploration, and he barely showed any signs. 3 years into his diagnosis as a then 60-year-old man, he was diagnosed at 57. He was, ambulatory. He was driving. He was able to take on, an exhausting trip as a champ. So at that time, yeah, we really thought. And the battle cry was a cure within 10 years, right? Muhammad Ali and Michael J. Fox. So we thought this is a bump in the road. It wasn't until 2014, 10 years later, when the first film had run its course and people were still enjoying it online, we decided to do a second film, that I started looking and going, oh, this is kind of worse than I thought. And there's more here than I thought. And my dad made the first admission right at the beginning of that film, Second Base. I don't think there's going to be a cure in my lifetime. And that was a gut punch. That was a whoa, wow, what a start. And so the shift became waiting for a cure to quality of life. And that was a big shift. So, that's one of the big jumps there. And then in this film, which you just saw, there was very much, how close are we to teetering on the edge of not being able to do this? I mean, Dad's near refusal at the beginning, and his near miss of the Cincinnati trip and making that heroic trip across BART, at nighttime to make the plane. That really shows that. In the fourth film, something that comes up that was unexpected. The fourth film's very different. I'll give you that out the jump, because the spine of the film is a live presentation. There were some folks here in the room that were at that. Karen, Susan, and Venetia were there that evening, and my dad was there in the front row, and he was having a really rough day. He was wildly dyskinetic through about the first 45 minutes of the presentation. I'm up doing a keynote front of about 75, 80 people, and being filmed, and there's my dad just having a rough time, but also wouldn't have missed it for the world, and us saying this is the reality. It's what we're going to play with and play in. And in that fourth film, which you'll see, there's a different tone as well. Still laughter and tears and love. It's just a different tone. So I hope there are two framing films that I hope come through. One is Boyhood by Richard Linklater, the film they made over the course of, I believe, 12 years in real time. And, hopefully we have some aspects of that. And the other is a documentary series by Michael Apted called 7 Up. And it's a BBC documentary where they revisit kids every 7 years into their adult lives. And I believe they're up to 63 up, which is amazing. They started the film in 1963. So this would be this year. Yes, probably 63 up. Even though the director has passed away, I believe they're going to be doing that. So this idea of revisiting, this is, to my knowledge, the only longitudinal Parkinson's film. There's a lot of snapshot films that grab, and God bless them. But I really think we have a stake to claim to say that the only film to measure not just a person's life, but the industrial medical complex, the various things we tried and failed at, all of those things go into having this long of a film study. And the idea is there was always going to be 5 films, just like the Hone and Yar scale. And that would be following the base paths: first base, second base. So you just saw shortstop, third base, and that the fifth and final film would be Safe at Home. We'll see if that's still the plan. I imagine it'll be out there at some point. No plans for it right now. Time has to pass. But that's the arc of what we're doing, and I hope what'll benefit the community at large continue to do so based on the kind comments here tonight. But for those of you out there, please contact me. You can have a screening like this online for your friends and family, for your local community group, for your local hospital or support group. All of those things are available. We're not charging for this film because we want it to be out there. We want people to know about what's coming with the fourth film, and yeah, we want you to have some great content to share the conversation and further your own. So, with that in mind, unless we have anything else, I want to thank all of you. Please let you know once again in the chat is that link. I will send it out as well. So you can send us your thoughts and comments on tonight's presentation. And please write to me and let me know when we can schedule your screening of Boys of Summer Shortstop with your group. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night. God bless.
Thank you.
God bless.
Bye.